Dear friends, do you have moments when your creativity feels like a winding path, full of starts, stops, and moments of uncertainty? For this painting, I set out to capture a foggy forest on a cold-pressed paper at first. I sketched it over and over, trying to perfect the idea, but something didn't feel right. My heart and mind kept pulling me in another direction. It wasn't until I let go of my expectations that I realized what I truly wanted to paint. The soft morning light reflecting over the reservoir.
What do you want, Eddie? Are you gonna help me out?
But before I could even start painting, my dog Eddie decided to get involved in his own way. As I tried to tear the watercolor paper into smaller pieces, he wandered right across it, completely unbothered by my plans. It was one of those moments that reminded me not to take life or art too seriously. Sometimes the little interruptions make the process even more special. Once I embraced that vision, everything fell into place. The colors, the light, the mood, they all began to flow naturally. It was a reminder that creativity isn't about forcing perfection, but about listening to where your heart wants to go. In this video, I'll take you through my process from start to finish, sharing how I chose hot-pressed paper for its smooth texture and how I worked through my struggles to find clarity. Along the way, I'll also reflect on the devastating wildfires in Southern California that were on my mind as I painted. My heart goes out to everyone affected by this tragedy, and my deepest gratitude goes to the firefighters, first responders, and volunteers who are working tirelessly during these difficult times. And if you can and want to help people displaced by the fires in the Los Angeles area, please check out the links to several official charities you can donate to. You will find these links in the video description below. And now, please join me as we explore the scene where the sun breaks through a veil of fog, one brushstroke at a time. Let's embrace the beauty of letting go and finding inspiration in the places we live. Before starting the larger piece, I spent some time with a small sketch, letting the scene take shape in my mind first. This little sketch later became my guide, but with watercolor, there's always room for the unexpected. The way the water moves, how the colors blend, it's unpredictable in the best way. And that's what makes it so exciting. Now let me show you how this painting came together. Feel free to paint along with me, or simply relax and enjoy the creative process and listen to the music I handpicked for this film. Let's welcome the unexpected surprises and let the process unfold naturally. Before we move forward, let's pause, take a deep breath, let go of any worries or distractions, and let yourself settle into this moment. The beauty of watercolor is in its flow, so let's embrace that. Now, with our paper still damp but not overly wet, we'll begin applying color. Start with Maple's yellow in soft circular motions, mimicking the shape of the sun and how its light radiates through the mist. As you work outward, gradually warm up the hue by layering yellow ochre and then chromium orange. Let each circle flow into the next, creating that gentle glow of light dispersing through the fog. Now I'm painting a soft half circle in the lower part of the paper to mimic the reflection of sunlight on what will later become the water surface. Here's a little trick I love to use to carve out the lightest area on the sun and its reflection. I simply bunched up a paper tissue and gently dabbed it onto the still wet surface. This lifts the pigment and reveals the bright white of the paper underneath, creating that glowing effect. It's such a simple technique, but it adds so much life to the painting. Give it a try. It's a fun way to let the light shine through. Alright, as you've just seen, I've been working with a mix of blue-grays while adding Dave's gray, lunar blue, a touch of opera pink and ultramarine to create a soft transition from night to day. My goal was to capture that magical moment when the sun begins to conquer the darkness, breaking through the foggy mist so common in the mornings here. I worked on the still damp paper, letting the colors flow and blend naturally, and as I moved towards the foreground, I added more opera and pink to warm up the cooler tones. The subtle shift helps create atmospheric perspective, adding depth and dimension to the scene. For those of you just starting out with watercolor, I know how challenging wet-on-wet techniques can feel. It takes time to learn how to gauge the water-to-pigment ratio on your brush and how much moisture is on your paper. And then there's the speed at which your paper dries, which depends so much on your environment. Right now, my room is warm and dry due to the running heater, so I've had to add more water to keep the surface workable. But if you are in more humid area, you might find that you need less water on your paper. The key here is to pay attention to how your paper looks and feels. Watch for that slight shine on the surface that tells you it's still damp enough to work with. Please don't worry if it feels tricky or even impossible now. Every painting is a chance for you to learn. And with practice, you'll start to feel more confident in letting the water guide you. As I look at the painting now, I notice the paper is just about to lose its sheen, and I'm thinking about what else can I add before letting it dry completely. Some of you have shared how much you love the first layer as it is, describing it as having a sense of happy melancholy. I thought that was such a beautifully poetic way to capture the mood of the first wash. For me, there's something so freeing about laying down those first washes. It's loose, atmospheric, and full of possibility. It feels like the most liberating part of the process. But for this painting, I decided to anchor that dreamy light with a few grounded elements. Shrubs, a lone tree in the distance, soft water reflections, and some grasses in the foreground. The creative process is so fickle and ever-changing. I could never recreate this exact painting again, even if I tried. My feelings shift from day to day and my paintings follow suit. That's what makes each piece so personal, a reflection of a moment that can't be repeated. You have noticed that I have moved on to the second layer application. Before starting this step, I let the first wash dry completely. It is so important to make sure it's fully dry before adding another layer. For me, it was about half a day before I came back to the painting. Now I'm working on the trees and shrubs using a cool green that I mixed with phthalo turquoise and some of the other colors in our palette. Phthalo turquoise is such a stunning deep blue green with an incredible value range, but it's also very strong on its own. So when using it for trees, I like to mute it with a touch of red or brown to give it more depth and realism. As I paint, I'm focusing on creating soft, natural shapes for the foliage while keeping the overall mood atmospheric and serene. To anchor the trees and give them more weight in the composition, I mixed all the colors on my palette to create a deep, rich purple-green. This dark mixture helps ground the scene and adds contrast to the soft, glowing light of the sun. I use this color not only for the trees but also to suggest their reflections in the water below, keeping my strokes loose and fluid to mimic the rippling surface. friends, we are about to apply our final touches. But before we start bringing additional details to the painting, I want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you for tuning in, for supporting my work, and for sharing this creative journey with me. I'm here because all of you are here. It's as simple as that. If you've enjoyed this video and think someone you love might enjoy it too, please share it with them. And don't forget to leave a comment below. I always look forward to reading your thoughts, stories, and kind words. They mean so much to me and inspire me to keep creating. Now let's add those final touches together and see how this piece comes to life. Now I'm painting the lone tree in the distance. Its shape reminds me of a cypress tree. Its lower branches reaching towards the ground almost as if its limbs are trying to brush the surface below. I've always loved observing trees. Their unique shapes and growth patterns feel like stories written in nature. Each one is different, shaped by time, weather, and its surroundings. I often wish I could spend more time among them, visiting beautiful forests and soaking in their quiet wisdom. In moments like this, as I paint, I can't help but think about how the world feels heavy sometimes. So many worries, so much uncertainty. Creativity can feel like a struggle when those thoughts weigh us down. But what I've learned is that we can find solace in moments of silence and observation, taking time to notice the things we love. The way light filters through the mist, the way a tree bends with grace, can help center us and bring us back to ourselves. That's why I cherish mornings like this one, walking in the early hours of veiled dawn. It reminds me that even when life feels overwhelming, there's beauty to be found if we pause long enough to see it. And that's what art is for me, a way to hold on to those moments and share them with you.
You happy?